The Economic Alliance presents the Gulf Coast Growth Show, recording from the Shell Studio, with your hosts, Jason Lee and Clint Aiken. Our mission is to highlight stakeholders and activities that drive the Houston Port Region's economy.
All right, and welcome to the Gulf Coast Growth Show. I'm Jason Lee, your host, and this is my co-host,
Clint Aiken.
And we are here with Shane Williams from the Port of Houston. And we are excited about today's show because we're really talking about the economic development side of it. So a lot of our show and a lot of our conversations about the port has been, I guess, specific to a lot of the work that's happening inside of the port, expanding opportunity, logistics. I think prior to our show, you were sharing some things that I didn't know. So I'm excited to kind of share that with our audience. I think they're excited about, or I think really the port region in itself is excited about the work that you're doing, and so I'm excited to tell everybody about what's going on. So Shane, real quick as we introduce you, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background, kind of what led you to this position, to this organization. So why not share with everybody, what got you to where you're at today, and then we'll dive into our topics for the conference.
Yeah, I don't know if there's really any career path that starts for foreign trade zone manager, which is where I kind of started before economic development. So I would say it was a winding path, but it might be the real path you do for FTZ director. I don't think anyone knows. I was with Congressman DeLay's office right out of college at Baylor, actually here in the Houston Sugar Land office. We was kind of back and forth between DC and here, and I did a lot of this stuff to help with Bayport when they were first building Bayport through some legislation we needed to do for Port Road and some other things. So knew the port a little bit. Congressman DeLay's time ended, and was looking for a job. I actually worked in a small lobby firm for some nonprofit stuff, but I wanted to get back into business, and the port had a community relations manager position open. So started that, kind of working with the small communities, worked with EA a lot with that, because obviously a lot of the small communities, it was within the footprint here, and kind of started doing a little economic development just through community relations. And the FTZ director, the only other one we've ever had at the port, retired, wanted to get closer to the business side, came up here, morphed FTZ into economic development, and either that was a good thing or a glutton for punishment, because I have all those gigs now.
Right, and now
that's a lot of hats.
It's quite a few.
You said morphed into economic development. Is that something that has always had its own, category inside the business?
No.
Or is this new?
This is new.
Okay.
I think if you had asked that question about 4 years ago, every department at the port would have said they do economic development, but I don't think any of us were. Kind of, we had hands in Economic Alliance probably with the stuff that they were doing. Probably had to deal with 5 or 6 different departments within the port, because different groups would do different subparts of what we were dealing with it. So Ricky Kuntz, my old boss, chief commercial officer at the time, and Roger Gunther, our executive director, kind of figured out, other ports around the country are doing some form of economic development. We're doing it at the port, but not specifically at any part. So I think it was easy to decide commercial was the right place for it, but what department within the division of commercial was where we wanted to be, and kind of fell on FTZ. It was FTZ and economic development for a while.
It wasn't like a short straw type thing, right?
I hope not. No, I wanted it. I did want it.
That's great.
It was. We saw the synergies with FTZ. FTZ is a great abatement tool for economic development, so it made sense. We kept it FTZ Economic Development, and then with John Mosley, our new Chief Commercial Officer, we made it a Department of Economic Development that just houses FTZ as part of it. So kind of a 3-step morph.
And for us laymen's, economic development, it almost sounds elementary.
Right.
Okay, I get it. You all develop economics. But what does that mean to our audience? If I'm driving down the road today and I'm listening to this and I say, well, what does he do?
Right.
So what is economic development for?
I think every guy or girl that runs economic development probably has a different answer. For us, we're even the weirdest answer, because usually economic development means you have a community, you have a city, you have an area, and you try to stimulate the economy of that area, whether it's retail Hotel, whether it's new Starbucks, whether it's getting a Nordstrom or whatever, and also doing industrial stuff and manufacturing jobs and new houses and all that stuff. For us, we don't have a region or an area. We have a few pieces of property that we use for our own stuff. And we have this massive footprint, all of Texas, that the port can serve, and even further out throughout the country. So what does it mean for us? It means helping work with these communities to get port-centric type businesses to locate here, whether that's trying to find warehouses, manufacturing facilities, market land that could work for an import DC or import manufacturer, anything like that. So it's kind of just a liaison in some ways between the community and the port of how we can work together to bring in jobs and stimulus.
Great. Well, I think that's a great parlay into the balance of our topics for today. And so I know a big piece of that is, how do we put Houston, for lack of a better term, on the map? Right. But we know for example, oil and gas. Yeah. We know we're on the map. That's a no-brainer.
No doubt.
Medical, know we're on the map. Prior to our show, you were sharing a couple of things, but I'm sometimes blown away when I hear that companies are choosing to go to Dallas, or companies are choosing to go to Austin. I know we lost some big deals to Austin. I sat in Austin traffic. It wasn't fun. Our trapic's bad. Their traffic is horrible.
It's worse. Yes.
No offense, Austin. They're just like, oh, it's okay, man.
They want it to be back. They don't want anyone else moving.
Right. So, but the reality is so you're trying to get these businesses here. So talk a little bit about that. So what is it specifically that you're trying to go out and market?
Yeah. Right. And so that's kind of the balance of the last answer I gave. Since we don't have a specific community or a group, it's not ours to own, so we don't get to decide that we want this type of business, we want that type of business. We have to work really closely with, say, Waller County, City of Katy, Conroe, and this area, all those small cities up and down the channel, and figure out what groups they want. Do they want distribution warehouse type areas? Some people, want, just manufacturing because they have enough distribution warehouses and they want a higher paying entry level job area. So first we figure out what the community wants, because we know we want import DCs. I mean, that's our number one target right now for Port Houston. We as the Port Houston Authority, we represent the whole ship channel, so we're friendly with oil and we want more of that and stuff. But when you're talking about what brings Port of Houston revenue, it's number one right now is our containers. So biggest growing market for us is a distribution warehouse type facility. And then of course our number two would be an import manufacturer of some kind. And if they want to re-export that stuff back out, even better. We hit them on our docks twice. Exactly. So we find the communities that want the DCs and or manufacturing, and then we find the communities that only want manufacturing, and we work with them to try to market their land, pitch how their job force can handle that. When our trade development guys are out meeting with all these companies across the country and then internationally, when they find out this company wants, let's say 200,000 square feet, they want to be able to do heavy manufacturing, and they have these types of requirements, we look at our communities and say, these four fit that bill, and push them to them. And then it's their job to sell. We'll be involved if they want, but we're not coming in and doing the deal for them. And at the end of the day, we know economic development organizations, they have to show that they won deals. So we're not taking the win either. Like, we don't care who gets credit for it. We want the stuff over our dock. So
we win.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Houston wins if that place lands. Amen. So that's really our role. It's kind of weird because we don't give the abatement and we don't close the deal. We just kind of try to marry the right areas that's going to bring us cargo to the right community.
Got it. And so the organization itself, Houston, the port itself, right? Is it? It's not a public entity.
It's kind of interesting.
How does that work?
So
why should I be excited about
us winning?
You
private industry
right.
Yeah.
So I'm
semi-public, quasi-public, quasi-private is kind of how we call it. We are an entity of the state. Technically, we're chartered by the state to have a port, but unlike some entities, state-run entities, we make revenue. So the money that I make in my salary, the money we use to market the zone, FTZ zone, market the port, go out and get these new DCs, is all off our revenue from cargo, either at our 2 container terminals or our break bulk facilities.
Got it.
And then we pour that money back into infrastructure. We're doing a bunch of projects right now to grow our facilities. So that's why, because we're a public facility. Our container terminal, City Docks, is the first public port in this area. Still stands over 100 years. It's the same facility over at the turning basin, I-10 and the 610 bridge and I-45. So still we're rehabbing. One side is still really good. We're rehabbing the other side right now, but over 100-year-old docks. So yeah, we're still the public port for this area.
Wow, that's amazing. That's fantastic. And I guess to your point, the more you push through here means the more jobs, means
Right.
the more logistic jobs, means the more manufacturing jobs, means the more everything, right?
Yeah,
So-
the economic impact of what we do isn't based on our revenue. We have a study out there. It's on our website. I don't know the exact words, but the exact amount, but it's over $300 billion of economic impact for the state of Texas and the nation through the Port of Houston. So that's truck drivers. They don't work for us, but because the facilities are here, they have jobs. People working in a warehouse, people manufacturing the product, people driving barges, people dredging the ship channel,
Right.
all that type of stuff.
IT, accounting that goes with it, the office
right,
support.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why us landing a new facility or new DC isn't just good for us. It's good for the community it goes in, and it actually reaches out further than that community too in a lot of ways.
Wow, that's amazing. And so, and prior to the show, you were kind of giving us a little education. I thought it was interesting because every guest we've had, or even folks that have been on our show to talk about the growth that's happening, always talks about how much volume we do.
Yeah.
So we're larger and do much more volume than any of the other ports in the
Right.
nation.
Right.
We know that. What was a surprise to me is that we're like not number one across the board in everything.
That's
that
right.
was surprising to
Yeah.
me. Because you use the term third, and
Yeah.
being from Texas, it's a weird
Yeah, it's a bad thing to say.
I'm like, what?
Third's not a winner.
No, I almost canceled the show.
That's
I
right.
was
You
like,
should.
so
This guy's third place.
we don't do third here, but in reality, help us understand that, because if that means we're third, that means there's room for growth.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, exponential
Yeah,
room for
right.
growth. So help me understand where that lies.
So that's a discussion we have. It's not a marketing piece we have, but it's a discussion we have with all these companies when we're dealing with them, of being the third entry point into the United States. For some people, it's the second entry point, but the idea is everybody is on the East Coast and the West Coast. They just, from day one, when containers first started coming into the United States, that's how you did it. You brought it in the East Coast for Europe, and you brought it in the West Coast for Asia or other ideas, and then you somehow got it across the country after that. So
Right.
that just stayed true for a long time. We built Barber's Cut in the 70s, which is our first container, our oldest container port, our terminal we have right now, and then Bayport when I was with Congressman DeLay, so hopefully for me not that long ago. So they're really young and new as containers go. We're a very young container port. So when we're having discussions with a company that hadn't come in here, Target's the one we always talk about because they rank #1 on Journal of Commerce importer in the country right
Wow.
now, and we don't have them. Walmart's in there, but they kind of hide what their
Right.
materials are. But we don't have them. We don't have a DC here because right now they're bringing it to LA, rail it across the country to Dallas, and then serve Texas mainly through that hub. And then stuff coming from Europe will come through Savannah or New York or whatever,
Wow, okay.
and be brought over. So the discussion has to be: you've used this method. It's cheaper to go all water. We have a lot of services now. We're getting more and more services from different shipping lines. So the reliability is there. The amount of time it comes in is there. Now maybe you want to start serving Texas through Houston, and then we build our way up north through the middle of the country
There
and
you
out
go.
west and east. So
Nice.
third entry point, it's not, but I said earlier, and I want to say again, when we say third entry point, we also want to say we're the fastest growing container port right now. We've made more strides than
100%. But that's what I heard you say, right? I said there's upside. Right?
Yes, exactly.
And then when you think about the infrastructure and the work, the expanding, the work you're doing to upgrade the ports, the work they're doing to widen the channel, to create more opportunity, more traffic, so more traffic can get through. All that means is moving from the third entry point to
Right, the main entry point.
Yeah, we're just for everything.
You got to use us, exactly.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Part of the expansion project is so that larger ships can come in, right?
Yes.
So those are larger container ships. Just for my education, because I really don't know, can those larger container ships, how easy is it for them to go to the East Coast versus the West Coast?
I mean, the West Coast, those larger container ships, that's the only types of ships they get. Because it's a straight shot, Asia to the West Coast.
Right.
East Coast, they get the bigger ships as well, but LA, that's their bailiwick. That's what they get.
Gotcha.
So easy. It's easy for them. They don't have, a channel to have to go up through. They're just hitting the east. Like that's where Savannah has. They have a little bit of a problem with tides sometimes, but they can get the larger ships right now too. They've done the infrastructure in place as well. So if we want to keep growing where we are and stay relevant, we have to get those because they're going to start phasing the smaller ones out. It only makes sense,
Sure.
Container ships make more money the more container boxes are on them, both in and out.
Right.
And that's where we have a really good advantage over LA and a lot of the East Coast is with our oil industry that's here, the plastic resin that they produce here in Houston more than anywhere else in the world really is exported either Brazil, China, some to Europe, and so their boxes will go out full. So we can fill them out and we bring them in. So last year we were almost exactly 50-50 on import and export, where LA Long Beach is going to be closer to 90% on import versus export. So the shipping lines.
So when you look at ships going back, they're going back empty, so that's a lot of waste.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a waste. I mean, so for us to be 50-50, 49-51, right in there is a huge selling point for the shipping lines, and that's why we've gained a lot of traction with them because they can come in full, leave full. We also have made alliances with some other Gulf ports where they'll make multiple stops.
That should be your marketing slogan right there, come in full, leave full.
Leave full, exactly. Come on. Free boat, good money both ways.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Absolutely. And then I think it makes you a little bit more, regardless of where costs or economic environment changes it. So, for example, I might be on the bad end of the import industry. I might be on the bad end of the export. But if I'm 50-50, I stand to gain, or I'm neutral.
No, you're absolutely right.
I'm not codependent on what's happening in the marketplace or tariffs or anything. These things don't have as much of an impact.
Right, doesn't just kill you.
Somebody pull a lever in one spot. That's beautiful.
It made us. We went through the recession a lot better than a lot of the other ports did a few years ago because we had that balance. When people weren't importing because of the recession, we were still exporting, and then vice versa when other countries were struggling bringing stuff in, we could, or whatever, vice versa when we weren't exporting, we were importing. So it's helped.
Wow, that's awesome. Man, we took the agenda and then just threw it away and then just started talking, which is great because I think we're making some good time and getting a lot of great content covered today, which is exciting. I'm gonna let you pick up. So where we talked, one thing I don't know if we've circled back to or captured was the industrial real estate trends, what you're seeing in industrial real estate. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Houston, as an industrial market, just let's say 5 years ago, was pretty weak as far as how many different facilities were coming here. Spec buildings, building it without a customer already there, so a developer just deciding I'm going to build a warehouse, market this thing, and get it leased out, which is an investment and fairly risky. It was maybe you'd get 150,000 square foot size building or 200,000, where in the West Coast, if you're not close to $1 million, it doesn't make sense to even worry about. So we were way behind when it came to industrial real estate. Now we're seeing spec buildings be put up that are 500, 800,000 square feet.
Wow.
We're seeing millions being built that because they have a customer, which maybe back then we had 2 or 3 million plus square footers in the region. We're seeing announcements all the time with 800,000, million, 1.2, 1.3 on the west side, out here in southeast, really all over Conroe just got a big win up there with Five Below. So so the market's hitting up. We had 13 million square feet in construction in the last announcement here in the fourth quarter, which is again crazy for us. And what the vacancy rate's still 6.4. So still really low.
I'm trying to remember that retailer that's out past Katy. That it's just humongous. It's on my way.
Igloo.
Is it Igloo?
I say Igloo, Rooms to Go.
Those just
out there.
giant. It's just massive.
Yeah, Waller just announced right at where Rooms to Go is, right below them. So you'll still see it from the highway. Is where Ross is building theirs. I think it's one. They announced anywhere from 800 to 1.5. So I think it's going to be.
Daikin has a huge facility out in
Daikin's massive.
God, I think
that's insane.
That blows me away when I see that
Amazon's just
facility.
with theirs out there. Yeah, that west side is getting big.
And then and you got to fill them up from somewhere.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So that's the deal is the west side is starting to grow. Our southeast submarket's still doing really good, and be located here, we always have a soft spot for the southeast submarket. So it's still doing really, really good. But you're seeing the west side blow up because if you think about it, bring in to the third entry point into the Port of Houston.
Stop saying that.
Exactly, I know. See what I'm going to say, the entry point. Bring it into the Port of Houston, get it to where rooms to go is, all those that we list on the west side or north, and then you can serve Austin, Dallas, and back into Houston reverse traffic wise from that facility. So it makes a lot of sense why they're going west and north, because they can still get in, but they're also outside of traffic, and then hopefully Grand Parkway completes, but with the parts of the Grand Parkway that are done, you just hit that Grand Parkway, you're up to Dallas, you're out to Austin, San Antonio.
And
So
land
with
cost
that kind of
direction is really inexpensive too.
Exactly.
And Bruce hit on this from your office, Bruce Mann.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of collaboration between you and TxDOT.
Yeah, there is.
And I mean, it's almost like you almost have to work hand in hand. In that, do you have a peer that you're collaborative with over there that you share a lot of work with? Because what you do and what they do is they almost have to go hand in hand.
does.
If they don't get on board with the growth that we're doing, or
We're in
vice versa,
trouble,
it creates a problem. There's a bottleneck, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, infrastructure division where Bruce is, and then Bruce specifically deals with TxDOT and all the associations that go with it all the time. We deal with the governor's economic development office, which then talks about infrastructure and roads as well. So we kind of hit them on both those sides. But yeah, a selling point for us is we're not LA. You're not going to get your stuff at the port and then be at a grinding halt. So if we don't get in front of that, we will be LA, which then hurts that selling point, obviously. So yeah, we can't become LA, and you got to stay. It's like anything else; you got to stay ahead of the game. You can't build it when you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're going to be
in
number
LA.
one.
You got to have you have to have a permit to get a permit, right?
Right, exactly. That's right.
So we usually shift gears on the second half of the show, but before we talk a little bit about some of the organizations y'all are involved with, a little bit about your background, the people that you wanted to highlight, is there anything specific to the work that's being done, whether it's now into the future, what you're seeing that you want to kind of make sure we capture before we shift gears for the show? So I'm turning that over to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's two really big things we kind of captured through this part of the conversation that I've kind of hit on is the Ross announcement, the Five Below announcement coming here, tracking down some other major DCs into our hub that have not been in this area for the first time. I think that when you see it, if people
Sorry, you've used DC a couple of
distribution
times.
center.
There you go.
You got to distribution center. But yeah, when you hear like a Ross and Amazon, someone like that's coming and they're building a distribution center here, people need to realize that means that it's literally the product that you're seeing. When you go to Ross, to Walmart, to Home Depot, is coming into the Port of Houston, going to that facility, and ending up in the store. So it's good for all of us. It's important, and it's kind of cool for our community and area. So we'll have a few more announcements like that hopefully coming up. That'll be some big news from the port. And then you can't have any conversation about the port without talking about some type of tariffs. So the thing that I'll say in passing, which is kind of crazy to say in passing when it's a topic that deep, is even with all this unknown that we know that are going on with tariffs, we have the biggest foreign trade zone, and we kind of mentioned foreign trade zone a little, in the United States in FTZ 84, with a lot of the oil refineries are part of our zone. So all industries, retail, Mitsubishi manufacturing, Toyota's manufacturing. So the FTZ foreign trade zone has been able to help companies fight some of the tariff stuff that's going on until we can get it figured out with all the other countries and our country. So any small business, medium-sized business, you don't have to be Shell to be in our foreign trade zone. So anyone feeling a little tariff hurt, if there is anybody out there, nobody knows anything about a foreign trade zone, so don't feel like you shouldn't ask about it or try to find out more info from our office if you're facing import tariffs pretty bad, because we have a really good zone and we're proud of it.
Wow. Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, it's really exciting because of the diversification of our port, both in and out, import and export, giving us the capacity to not just be at the mercy of whatever, whether it be tariff or economy dictates for us. So just a blessing in general for us. So excited about that. So hey man, you covered some great stuff today. We're going to take a quick commercial break, hear from our sponsors, and then we'll dive in on the back half of the show.
McCarthy Building Companies. From the Museum of Fine Arts to terminals on the Houston Ship Channel, we understand the challenges and complexities you face when building here in the Gulf Coast region. As the oldest privately held national construction company, we have a clear focus on clients, community, and collaboration. Just to give you some context, our Houston-based business does 15 to 20 projects per year. We are employee-owned with over 2,000 employees throughout the U.S. and 250 in the Houston area. For more information on McCarthy Building Companies, please visit www.mccarthy.com.
Welcome back. So we are excited to just kind of we've got a lot of great information about the port today. I think it's just been unbelievable. I know myself personally, every time I learn more and more about it, I get that much more excited because nothing's stagnant.
Right.
It's like, with technology and all the things that are happening, we're then coming behind it with infrastructure, opportunity, and there's room for growth, which to me, we're the Gulf Coast Growth Show.
That's right.
And we're excited about what's happening in our region, right? We're excited about that.
Whenever you get someone on to talk about the port, one of the things I really like too is it seems like the port's always kind of taken for granted.
Yeah.
People don't realize how much work y'all generate for everyone in Houston, and just the economic benefit that everyone gains from the Port of Houston. So I always love having people on for the port. It's pretty amazing. So one of the things that we did want to talk about, coming back from the break, is we want to talk about some of the charitable things that the port does. So can you kind of hit on some of those topics?
Yeah, I mean, like I kind of gave first when you asked what my background was, I did start in community relations. At the time, we were doing a little more of we were building out Bayport and stuff, so it was working with those communities about how to mitigate some issues of having a container port in your backyard and kind of helping their community through parks and stuff like that. Still really good work. But still kind of more focused business side probably at the time. But our group that's in community relations now still doing that part of the job, but has gotten us out involved as a port employee-wise out into the community doing charitable, good, real work. Just finished on Thursday for Thanksgiving. I don't know all the numbers. I know it was over 50 families that we served meals to. Employees either bringing food throughout the week and then people on Thursday boxing the meals up. Nice. Frying turkeys out in the backyard. We had like 10 for deep fryers out there knocking turkeys out.
Nice.
And then delivering them to houses that were within 4 or 5 miles of our turning basin facility over at the port. So working with Port Elementary and some other elementaries around us to find out families that are in need for that.
That's awesome.
So it was really good. It was a real good hands-on. I have 2 kids, so it was good. One of them's only a couple months, so maybe she won't remember it, but good to show, give back to the community in the morning, and then we have more than enough stuff and don't kind of take that for granted in the afternoon. So
nice.
That was a really cool hands-on project. Port Elementary over by us, we have a lot of our employees go over there and teach classes or are involved in certain things with them. So a really good relationship with them. Then we have a lot of maritime education programs that are through San Jacinto College, through Houston ISD. I think Pasadena ISD still does one. We're teaching maritime classes, really with the idea of more of the trade route of people that maybe going to college isn't for them, or money-wise it's not for them. There's a lot of good paying jobs on our docks and in our facility and all of that you don't necessarily need the 4-year degree, and so they get this undergrad with a high school path through maritime. Then maybe they'll go to San Jack for 2 years, or maybe they'll go straight into working in a maritime based job. So that's a really cool one. But they've always been working with the Houston Food Bank. We've served meals there a lot too. So community relations really has kind of turned our path of just being, which is great to be business. You gotta do all that stuff to bring in the economic impact that we're talking about for the community, but you also need a softer side to kind of give back, and we've done that. Our strategic plan that we're getting ready to announce here pretty soon that's going to be done is going to be heavy on people, which is both people inside the port taking care of ours, but really also taking care of our strategic partners and our communities that we touch, and really giving back and putting a strong focus on that. So
nice.
Leslie and Garrett and the group over in community relations have a lot of stuff going, and getting us out of the office and actually doing something, which is a hard job, maybe harder than mine.
Right.
But they're starting to get it done quite
That's
a bit.
fantastic. I love the term "out of the office."
Yeah.
That's where the impact's made.
Exactly.
So, awesome stuff.
Very cool. So, any recent personal highlights you want to share?
You know, like I kind of alluded to in the my morphing phase of talking when I was talking about, we just got economic development department, which in this last January is crazy. I know it's so cliche to say the year's flown by, but it is kind of insane to think that we did that morph and then got the economic development department done in January, where they moved me from FTZ manager to economic development director, and we hired in Rena Lawrence, who was with our marketing department at the time, to be a second full-time economic development employee. So really big for us. She's been on the marketing side, so she knows everything there is to know about the port, but learning the economic development, and probably unfortunately for her, learning the FTZ part, the niche of indirect import tax benefits. Who doesn't want to know everything about that? But so she's getting in, going full steam, doing really well. So really cool for me to have the economic development department happen. It was a 4-year idea that had hit a lot of roadblocks. Working for a quasi-public entity to make a change is not easy at all. So it was kind of cool.
You deserve a badge just for that.
Just to make through it.
Yeah, exactly. So congratulations.
One last question I like to have is what makes you tick? What drives you?
Yeah, I love Houston. Y'all asked a really innocuous question when we first started talking about where am I from, and I always give the longest answer anyone ever has given about where they're from, because I was touched base in Texas, born in Texas, and my dad pulled us out to move for a job in Arkansas. So wasn't here long, but I was born here, so I love Texas. And then just after working for DeLay, fell in love with being Houston. So just making Houston better, getting our message out there. We have a bad rap, whether it's the Port of Houston being a new port and not getting all the love we deserve as a port in the United States, or Houston versus Dallas or San Antonio or Austin or whatever, not being as hip and cool and great as we are too. And that's why I love being at the port. I love Houston, and the Port of Houston is one of the main driving forces of making Houston tick. So it's kind of cool for me to be at an entity that is helping a city I really love, and then doing economic development, which is just trying to make these other economies around Houston get even better. So
very cool.
We're on a mission to make Houston cooler too.
Exactly.
Yeah, we are.
Make Houston cooler.
Anybody who's tuned into our show knows this. It's,
absolutely.
It's known. So.
Jason brings the hip.
I like it.
Hey, I felt awkward when you walked in, because I was like, this guy's got it together. Matching shirt, tie combo, sock combo, slick back hair, no ball spot. I'm like, this guy, man, super tall. But we always like to wrap up the show with an attitude of gratitude, right? So we're thankful. We're thankful to be here. We're thankful for our audience. We're thankful for the economy, for the people that we serve, and so we'd love to get your thoughts on what you're grateful for. And then we'll give ours.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, again, I'm going with cliches all day long, I guess, but they are true. When Ricky Kuntz was our old boss, the boss, I guess shouldn't say old boss, although he is retired, so, kind of old boss. But our former boss was who brought me in from community up to trade, doing more business side, and kind of invested in me for learning FTZ for a time. I didn't know what FTZ stood for when I got the job. And really kind of getting us to the next level. And so when he retired, and John Mosley, who I had worked with, he was our trade development director for all that same time, took over, there still was, although I knew him and knew he was good at what he did, there was a lot of unknown there for me, especially with us trying to make that morph happen in that exact time period. So I was a little worried there, but he helped not only push my idea that I had been working with Ricky across the finish line, but came up with some better ideas for it to kind of take it to a level I wasn't even thinking of. And from 6 months, I think, that he took over to the time we were able to announce it being done was pretty impressive, and something that maybe you wouldn't necessarily want to take on when you just got a new role and you're trying to figure stuff out. So him getting that across the finish line was something I'm probably eternally grateful for, but definitely grateful for now. And then, of course, Roger Gunther, our executive director. Luckily, I've been able to have a relationship with him when he was at Bayport before he got this role, and I was at community relations. Went through some of the same stuff there together. Just seeing that once we created the department, that I was the right person to fill the department and get me some help doing it. So he's been really good at investing back into our organization when possible. So I couldn't be where I am without them.
Right. So you've been surrounded by good mentors.
Exactly.
Right.
Even if it's cliche, it's true. Got to go with them.
Absolutely.
Can't go without that.
Well, I'm going to steal yours and go with the cliche. He's Chad Burt, the president of this organization. He's just not only a pleasure to know as a personal friend from my time prior to becoming a member here and seeing what was happening, but I witnessed him as a man, the way that he leads, both in the community and the people people that he serves and the people that he works with side by side. He's as good as a leader as it gets, and so getting to have the opportunity to try to emulate and model what he does, and then try to say, okay, how can I be impactful in a way that he's starting to become impactful is how I try to inspire to be like. So it seems like you've got the same. To find good people who do it well, do the same thing.
Exactly.
Right? So, it's not hard. Right?
No, exactly right.
I used to have a saying with my teams. I said, "I'm not afraid to. I will shamelessly steal. If you see greatness, just take it. Make it your own. Right. So,
for me, there are a lot of things we take for granted, right? And so I'm grateful for running water, electricity. You know? I mean, there's just all these little bitty things that we just expect to be there, right? Port of Houston provides a lot of those things. People go to the grocery store, they expect to find their brand of whatever it is that's on the shelf that they love. You guys provide that for them. So, I'm grateful for that. The fact that there's people who get up every day, drive through the Houston traffic, right? So that you can have those little bitty comforts and those things that we take for granted often. So that's what I got.
Fantastic. So we absolutely enjoyed the time that we've gotten today. It's just been, a great show. I didn't even keep up with the time. We might be like way over because I was so excited beforehand. I'm just like sitting over here like a sponge learning stuff. So I'm excited. Now I want to tour. If we go take a tour of the port, is there any way we can get on a boat?
You can get on a boat. We can take you on a tour.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, we're bringing the cameras, Caitlin. Right. We're going. So with that being said, we want to thank our audience for tuning in. We love that you guys are so involved. We'd love for you to stay in contact with us, give us feedback. You can go to our website, you can go to the LinkedIn page, the YouTube channels. Make sure you subscribe, stay in tune with us, and we always ask that you help us get the word out and share with your network and let other people know. So we're excited to go do that. So thanks a lot, and you guys have a great week.
Thank you.